Radio. As the war in Ukraine continues into its 110th day, President Zelenskyy says the battle for the key eastern city of Severodonetsk is taking a terrifying human toll. All of the bridges in the city have been destroyed, making it impossible to bring in humanitarian supplies or evacuate citizens. Earlier, I spoke to Arseniy Yatsenyuk, former Prime Minister of Ukraine, and I began by asking him how and when he predicts this war will end.
Well, look, here is the thing. What is the ultimate goal of Mr. Putin? I don't want to name him as a President Putin, because he is a war criminal and he is the guy who actually committed crimes against humanity. His ultimate goal is to take over Ukraine. His ultimate goal is to extinguish Ukrainian people. His ultimate goal is to undermine the Western world. He actually wants to replace the global order with the global disorder and the global chaos. He started to craft this plan in 2004. Why am I talking about 2004? Because in 2004, there was an orange revolution when the Ukrainian people stood up against the pro-Russian president, who rigged elections and actually wanted to take over the office of the president of Ukraine. And then Putin, he congratulated Yanukovych, who was a handpicked president by President Putin twice. But in the end, the Supreme Court of Ukraine overruled this, and Ukrainian people elected a pro-Western president. And then Putin realized that there is no other option rather than to launch a large-scale offensive against Ukraine, whether it is to be a soft power offensive or hard power offensive that he decided to commit in 2022. What is my take about the outcome of this war? This war is not just about Ukraine. This war is not just about Ukraine. No doubt that we are fighting for our independence, our sovereignty. We are actually fighting for our homeland, for our families, for our right to live and to survive. This war is about the freedoms and liberties in the world. This war about the freedoms and liberties of the United Kingdom, of the entire G7, and everyone who shares the values of the free world. There is no other options rather than to prevail in this war. This is win or die war for the Ukrainian people. This is win or die war for the entire free world. I want to be very clear about this, because if these dictators, bloody bastards like Putin, will prevail, this is the end of the free world. This is the end of democracy.
Do you think the free world understands that? So clearly, the people of Ukraine understand it, and at moments it seemed as though the British government has understood it. But some people would say, for example, that the German government or the French government at different times have had a different understanding. Do you think that universally the free world has had an understanding of what is at stake?
Let me put it this way. Whether Americans understand this completely, absolutely, yes, they do. Whether Brits understand this, no doubt, they do. Whether the European Union as the union clearly realized that this is the threat, an existential threat for the European Union, yes, they do. Whether we do have some kind of, let me call them like holdouts, a temporary holdouts. Well, they exist. For example, Hungarians. I'm very upset with the Hungarian government. Everything they are doing is just against the Hungary. Let me remind that in 1956, Soviets, these bloody Soviets, conquered and occupied Hungary. In terms of Germany and France, well, maybe President Macron, he wants to do something good. But in the end, what is the added value of all these never-ending talks with bastard Putin? There is no added value. The added value only Putin gets the favor of this added value. So we need to stay united, to close our ranks, and to show to Putin that nobody is scared of him, that the Western world will be united and is united.
Do you think that this war can ever be over if Vladimir Putin remains in power?
Here is the thing. I don't believe in benign Russia. And in my humble opinion, it doesn't give any sense, for example, if someone else is to chair the office of the president of Russia. Russia is always Russia. And we as Ukrainians have a very dramatic history of relations with Russians and Soviets, starting with Russian Empire and ending with Soviets and Bolsheviks, and with the Great Famine, when millions of Ukrainians have been exterminated by Soviets and Bolsheviks. So I don't believe in good Russia. What I believe in strong Western world. What I believe in strong unity of those who defend freedoms and liberties. What I believe that the good things in this world, that the righteous things will prevail. And I am confident about this.
Do you think that Putin's most effective tactic, apart from nuclear blackmail, might be to try to threaten to starve the rest of the world into submission? After all, Russia's interest in Ukraine has often been because of its status as the kind of breadbasket of Europe. If he tries to throttle the distribution of food to Asia and to Africa, and indeed parts of Europe as well, might he still clutch victory from the jaws of defeat?
Well, his bloody menu is a very comprehensive one. Few decades ago, actually, he started with a new type of weapon, which is energy. And everyone was dependent on the Russian energy in the European Union. And as a prime minister, I strongly opposed an idea of Nord Stream 2. And we shared a number of joint values with then Chancellor Merkel, except Nord Stream 2. Then he moved to another weapon, which is no doubt food. So that's another type of making an entire world a hostage of Russian invasion, and a hostage of new type of Russian weapon. You mentioned nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapon is another type of saber rattling that Putin launched a few months ago, because that's a kind of sniff test. He wants to test you and us, whether you are to lean back and to back down, and to show that look, we are scared. We are ready to hammer out the deal with you, Mr. Putin, because you possess a nuclear arms. But look, NATO is 10 times stronger than Russia. NATO is capable of defending its territory, and NATO is capable of supplying Ukraine heavy weaponry in order to help Ukraine to defend its sovereignty. So once again, sir, it's not just about Ukraine. This is about the global order. This is about the key values of this world, whether we are ready to defend it or we are ready to surrender. We are not ready to surrender.
Let's just finish with this question, which is, what is it more that Western leaders can do? Listeners to this program have the ability to lobby our government, maybe to lobby governments around the world, but certainly our own government. What more would you ask us to do? What should we be telling our political leaders Ukraine wants from us?
My appeal to the Western leaders. First, let me tell you thank you. Because, look, folks, you have your own domestic political agenda, and I do understand this. starting with the inflation and ending with your political troubles that every single nation have. You have your own opposition, you have your own government, and you have your own political process. But please, we have to realize that this fight is the fight for our joint freedoms. Please supply defensive weapon to Ukraine. Please supply offensive weapon to Ukraine. Please realize that this war is the war for our joint freedom. Please help Ukrainian people to survive. Help Ukrainian state to survive. Because this is a moment of history. On which side of the aisle we are, we have to be on the right side of the aisle. And the right side is to defend Ukraine, to defend our freedoms, to defend innocent Ukrainians, to defend security in the UK, in the EU, in the United States, and to fight against these bastards like Putin and the rest of autocrats.
Well, you're with Daniel Finkelstein here on Times Radio. That was the former Prime Minister of Ukraine. And if you've got a DAB digital radio at home or in your car and you've not managed to find Times Radio yet, you can tell from that interview why you should be doing so. Here are a couple of tips. You may need to rescan your radio by pressing the auto scan button. That'll give you all the latest stations in your area, and if that doesn't work, look for the full scan option, which might be in the menu, or sometimes you can get it by pressing and holding auto scan for a few seconds. And if you're still stuck, check out the guide on our website or email us on feedback@times.radio. Hopefully you're listening to Daniel Finkelstein on Times Radio on DAB, or you soon will be, but as long as you're listening to Times Radio, this is Daniel Finkelstein.